The arrogant alien slaver sneered as he tightened the noose of advanced tech around humanity's neck. He would soon regret underestimating the ape-descended primitives. Johnny Cook glared at the polymer walls, fists clenched. The Zeta Prime research complex was a cage, trapping him with Gamelon Interstellar Corporation colleagues who saw humans as talking monkeys. His prodigious engineering skills meant nothing to his alien overseers. "Don't touch that, primate," Altair growled, gesturing at a holographic terminal. "Gamelon technology is beyond your feeble brain." Johnny bit back a retort. As a ward of the Gamelon Empire, Earth depended on alien tech. Gamelon warp drives and terraformers had uplifted humanity, but also shackled them. Altair could have him deported, stranding him on a polluted Earth, slowly choking under overpopulation and dwindling resources. The blue-skinned alien strutted off, leaving Johnny seething at his work pod. Humanity needed a breakthrough, or billions would die on their withering planet. Johnny only had one option. Pulling up schematics on the crystalline display, he zoomed in with a whispered oath. "Time to show these arrogant slugs what a motivated human can do." "You think you can outdo Gamelon engineering, primate?" Altair sneered, his blue face twisted with contempt. "Very well. I accept your challenge. We shall each design and build a new shuttle prototype to be judged by a panel of experts. When you fail, perhaps you'll learn your place." Johnny met Altair's gaze. "And if I win, you'll acknowledge human ingenuity." With the stakes set, Johnny threw himself into the project, determined to create a shuttle that married the best of human and Gamelon design. He worked around the clock, barely pausing to eat or sleep. His design utilized modular components for easy repairs and upgrades in the field. For propulsion, he devised a hybrid system, combining Gamelon efficiency with human flexibility and redundancy. As the deadline approached, Johnny faced repeated sabotage from resentful Gamelon colleagues. One morning he found his workstation trashed, schematics deleted. Gritting his teeth, Johnny pieced his work back together from scattered backups and memory. He couldn't let setbacks stop him, not with so much at stake. Finally, after countless long nights, Johnny's prototype was ready. Altair's shuttle gleamed with sleek Gamelon lines, a stark contrast to Johnny's rugged, piecemeal construction. The judges frowned at Johnny's unorthodox design, but their skepticism turned to shock as the testing began. Johnny's shuttle outstripped Altair's in every measure. It was faster, more maneuverable, more robust. In the final heat, Altair's engine failed while Johnny's kept going, unfazed by the grueling conditions. As the scores were tallied, Altair paled. The verdict was unanimous. The human had won. The Gamelon experts muttered to each other, shooting appraising looks at Johnny. Perhaps they had underestimated these primates. "This proves nothing," Altair blustered. "A fluke. Gamelon superiority is absolute." Johnny shook his head. One shuttle was just the beginning. Despite Altair's grumblings, word of Johnny's victory spread quickly through the Gamelon research complex. Blue-skinned engineers who once sneered at him in the halls now nodded with grudging respect. Johnny's human colleagues clapped him on the back, their pride in his achievement tempered only by the knowledge that their own positions were still precarious. A week after the competition, Johnny received a summons from the Gamelon High Council. Heart-pounding, he stepped into the imposing chamber, the eyes of the galaxy's most powerful beings upon him. "Jonathan Cook," intoned the High Counselor, her voice resonating through the hall. "Your unorthodox design has caught the attention of many. Explain to us why you believe human-Gamelon collaboration is the path forward." Johnny took a deep breath. This was his chance to change the course of history. He launched into his presentation, detailing the ways human creativity and adaptability could complement Gamelon precision and advanced technology. He spoke of the desperate need for new solutions to the challenges facing both their civilizations: dwindling resources, environmental collapse, the ever-present threat of war. As he spoke, Johnny saw some counselors lean forward, intrigued. Others remained impassive, but none interrupted. When he finished, silence hung in the air for a long moment. Then the High Counselor spoke. "Your arguments have merit, Jonathan Cook. The Council approves the formation of a joint human Gamelon research and development team with you at its head. Choose your team members wisely. The future of our peoples may depend on your success." Johnny could hardly believe his ears. A grin spread across his face as the magnitude of the opportunity sank in. He would have the chance to work with the brightest minds of both species, to push the boundaries of what was possible. But the elation was short-lived. As Johnny set to work assembling his team, he quickly encountered resistance from both sides. Some humans resented taking orders from a Gamelon lackey, while many Gamelons bristled at the idea of working under a primitive species. Tensions flared as the team began its projects. Debates over design philosophies and research priorities often devolved into shouting matches. On more than one occasion, Johnny had to physically separate brawling engineers. Progress was slow, hampered by constant setbacks and infighting, but Johnny refused to give up. He mediated disputes, found compromises, and slowly earned the respect of his team through sheer determination and technical brilliance. Late one night, hunched over a prototype quantum computer, Johnny had a breakthrough. By combining human iterative design with Gamelon quantum entanglement technology, he unlocked processing speeds orders of magnitude beyond anything previously achieved. The applications were endless, from drug discovery to climate modeling to interstellar navigation. As Johnny presented the prototype to the team, he saw something new in their eyes, a glimmer of hope, of possibility. They had created something extraordinary together. News of the breakthrough spread like wildfire. The High Council praised the team's work, holding it up as a shining example of the potential of human-Gamelon partnership. But in certain corners of Gamelon society, the reaction was far less enthusiastic. Altair, still smarting from his humiliation, found a receptive audience for his anti-human rhetoric among conservative factions. "The humans are parasites," he ranted to anyone who would listen. "They leech off our technology, corrupt our way of life. If we don't put them in their place, they'll soon rule over us." As the joint team unveiled more and more innovations, revolutionary energy systems, self-healing materials, sentient AI, Altair's movement gained traction. Protests erupted outside the research complex, with signs depicting Johnny and his team as monsters, as threats to Gamelon purity. Inside the lab, the atmosphere grew tense. Human team members reported harassment, even physical attacks when venturing into the city. Some Gamelon researchers, swayed by the rising anti-human sentiment, began to drag their feet to undermine projects from within. Johnny found himself spending more and more time in closed-door meetings with the High Council, arguing for the importance of the joint team's work, for the necessity of human-Gamelon cooperation in the face of looming existential threats. But he could feel the tide turning against him. One evening, as Johnny worked late in the lab, Altair burst in, flanked by a group of armed Gamelon extremists. "Step away from the console, primate," Altair spat, leveling a plasma rifle at Johnny's chest. "Your little experiment in collaboration is over. It's time for you and your kind to remember your place." Johnny slowly raised his hands, mind racing. The fate of the joint team, perhaps the fate of both their species, hung in the balance. He had to find a way to turn the tide, to prove once and for all that humans and Gamelons were stronger together than they ever could be apart. Johnny stared down the barrel of Altair's plasma rifle, his mind racing. He knew he had to act fast or everything he'd worked for would be lost. Just as Altair opened his mouth to issue another threat, an alarm blared through the research complex. Red lights flashed and a robotic voice announced, "Emergency alert, unauthorized access detected in Hangar Bay 7. All security personnel report immediately." Altair's eyes widened. He barked orders at his men and they rushed out of the lab, leaving Johnny alone with a final warning. "This isn't over, human." As soon as they were gone, Johnny's Gamelon colleague, Zafir, burst into the room. "Johnny, we have a situation. Altair and his extremists have staged a coup. They've taken over a military base and hijacked a fleet of our new hybrid warships." Johnny felt his blood run cold. Those ships were equipped with the most advanced human Gamelon technology, including weapons systems capable of devastating entire planets. If Altair turned that firepower on Earth... "We have to stop them," Johnny said, already moving towards the door. "There's more," Zafir said grimly. "We intercepted a transmission. They're planning to attack Earth to provoke a war that will end human Gamelon cooperation forever." Johnny clenched his fists. He wouldn't let that happen. He'd dedicated his life to bridging the gap between their species, to proving that they were stronger together. He wouldn't let Altair's hatred and fear destroy everything they'd built. "Gather the team," he told Zafir. "I have a plan." Minutes later, Johnny stood before a hastily assembled group of his most trusted researchers, both human and Gamelon. "Altair has stolen our tech, and he's going to use it to attack Earth. We have to stop him." "How?" asked a human engineer. "Those ships are virtually unstoppable." Johnny allowed himself a small smile. "Not quite. I installed a hidden kill switch in all our joint project tech, a failsafe in case it ever fell into the wrong hands. If we can hack into the ship's systems and activate it, we can disable the entire fleet." The room erupted into a buzz of excitement and apprehension. It was a daring plan, but it was their only chance. As the team raced to their stations, preparing for the digital assault, Johnny felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Zafir, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. "You know Altair will be expecting a trick like this. His hackers will be ready." Johnny nodded grimly. "Then we'll just have to be better." High above Zeta Prime, Altair stood on the bridge of his flagship, a cruel smile playing across his blue features as he watched his fleet assume attack formation. The pathetic humans would soon learn the price of their arrogance. Suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. "Sir," a Gamelon officer called out, "our systems are under attack." Altair whirled around, his eyes blazing. "The humans," he snarled. "They're trying to hack our ships. Block them." On the ground, Johnny and his team worked feverishly, their fingers flying over holographic keyboards as they battled Altair's defenses. It was a high-stakes duel in cyberspace, with the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance. Sweat beaded on Johnny's brow as he countered attack after attack, his eyes locked on the screen. They were so close, but Altair's hackers were good, adapting quickly to every strategy. Just as Johnny thought he'd found a weak spot in the extremists' firewall, a new alert flashed across his screen. "Damn it," he swore. "They're launching fighters." A squadron of sleek, deadly attack craft streamed from the hijacked warships, racing toward Zeta Prime's surface and the research complex. "They're coming for us," Zafir said, his voice tight. Johnny gritted his teeth. "Then we'll have to work faster." As the battle raged in space and cyberspace, Johnny's team fought with every ounce of skill and determination they possessed. Their coding and countermeasures flew back and forth, each side struggling to gain the upper hand. And then, with a final desperate keystroke, Johnny broke through. The kill switch activated, and one by one, the stolen ships went dark, their systems shutting down as the hybrid tech turned against its captors. On the bridge of his flagship, Altair let out a howl of rage as his screens went black, his grand plan unraveling before his eyes. In the skies above Zeta Prime, the extremist fighters faltered, their pilots struggling to maintain control as their ship's systems failed. One by one, they broke off their attack runs, limping back to their motherships in defeat. A cheer went up in the research complex as the team watched the hijacked fleet go dark. They had done it. They had stopped Altair's coup and saved countless lives on both Earth and Zeta Prime. But even as they celebrated, Johnny knew their work was far from over. Altair's actions had thrown the deep prejudices within Gamelon society into stark relief. It would take more than one victory, however impressive, to truly change hearts and minds. In the aftermath of the failed coup, the Gamelon High Council convened an emergency session. As Johnny and his team watched from the galley, the councillors debated fiercely, some demanding harsh retribution against the extremists, others pleading for understanding and reconciliation. Finally, the High Councillor herself took the floor. Today's events have shown us the dark path that hate and fear can lead us down, she said solemnly. But they have also shown us the incredible things we can achieve when we work together, human and Gamilon alike. She turned to face Johnny, her eyes bright with determination. The Council pledges to redouble our efforts to foster understanding and cooperation between our peoples. We will not allow the actions of a misguided few to destroy the progress we have made. Johnny felt a swell of emotion as he listened to her words. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction, and he knew with more certainty than ever that he would continue to fight for that progress, no matter the challenges ahead. As he looked around at his team, at the faces of his human and Gamilon colleagues united in purpose, Johnny allowed himself a moment of hope. They had won this battle, but the war for understanding, for a future where humans and Gamilons stood together as equals, was only just beginning. In the aftermath of the failed coup, Johnny found himself thrust into the spotlight. Both humans and progressive Gamilons hailed him as a hero, a shining example of what could be achieved through interspecies cooperation. His actions had not only saved countless lives, but also reignited hope for a future where humans and Gamilons could stand together as equals. The Gamilon High Council, recognizing Johnny's unique position, appointed him as the official ambassador between Earth and Zeta Prime. It was a role Johnny embraced with his characteristic determination, pouring all his energy into strengthening the bonds between the two civilizations. He shuttled back and forth between Earth and Zeta Prime, meeting with leaders, negotiating agreements, and promoting cultural exchange. Under his guidance, joint research projects flourished and trade routes opened up, bringing prosperity to both worlds. But as Johnny threw himself into his work, those closest to him began to notice troubling changes in his behavior. His once easy smile gave way to a hard, calculating stare. His decisions, once tempered by empathy, now seemed coldly rational, almost Gamilon in their ruthlessness. Zafir was one of the first to confront him. "Johnny, what's happening to you?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. "It's like you're turning into one of them." Johnny brushed off his friend's worries, insisting that he was fine, that he was just adapting to his new role. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. His thoughts, once so warm and human, now felt alien, as if they belonged to someone else. It was only when he snapped at his mother during a rare visit home that Johnny was forced to confront the truth. The woman who had raised him, who had always been his rock, recoiled from him as if he were a stranger. The look of fear in her eyes shook Johnny to his core. Desperate for answers, he turned to the Gamilon scientists he had once worked alongside. They ran tests, probed his mind, and came to a chilling conclusion. Johnny's prolonged exposure to advanced Gamilon technology had altered his brain chemistry, gradually eroding his humanity and replacing it with a cold, calculating rationality that mirrored the Gamilon mindset. Johnny was horrified. The very thing that had allowed him to bridge the gap between their species was now tearing him apart, turning him into something he no longer recognized. As his condition worsened, Johnny found himself increasingly isolated. His human colleagues, once so eager to work with him, now kept their distance, unnerved by his increasingly erratic behavior. Even his Gamilon allies began to view him with suspicion, wondering where his true loyalties lay. In a final, desperate attempt to save himself, Johnny secretly underwent an experimental procedure designed to purge the Gamilon influence from his mind. It was a risky gambit, but he saw no other choice. He couldn't continue living as a man divided, torn between two worlds. The procedure was grueling, pushing Johnny to the brink of sanity. When he emerged, he was changed, but not in the way he had hoped. The Gamilon rationality was gone, but so too was part of his humanity. Johnny was left with a fractured psyche, his mind a battleground between his human emotions and the remnants of his Gamilon conditioning. In the end, Johnny came to a painful realization. He no longer fully belonged to either world. The price of his success, of his tireless work to bring humans and Gamilons together, had been the loss of his own identity. With a heavy heart, Johnny resigned his post as ambassador. He bid farewell to his friends and colleagues, human and Gamelon alike, and set off into the stars, exiling himself to a remote corner of the galaxy. There, among the quiet worlds and empty spaces, Johnny lived out his days as a recluse, haunted by the knowledge of what he had become. He was a living cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked technological advancement and the importance of preserving one's own identity in the face of overwhelming change. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.